Welcome to Tardisian Files. Wow, it has been one hell of a week for Doctor Who fans. We have had a new trailer drop, we've had the names of the first two episodes confirmed, and the title of the third has been hinted at in Doctor Who magazine, and for those eagle-eyed, we've even had Ncuti Gatwa voice his own theory about the identity of Mrs. Flood in a recent interview with RadioTimes. So, naturally, in today's episode, we're going to be doing a deep dive into all the new material released in the media, starting with the trailer. Let's go. In a truly cinematic manner, the trailer jumps in headfirst with the Doctor flying the TARDIS over London and landing right into the command centre of Unit HQ, with the Doctor emerging and shouting, "Give me the loving!" Next, we see the TARDIS again on the cliff face from the last trailer. The camera cuts to a recap of how the Doctor and Ruby officially met in a nightclub, as if anybody hasn't already watched the Christmas special at this point. The clip then cuts to the TARDIS flying over London again. And in true Doctor Who fashion, we then see the TARDIS landing in Carla Sunday's flat, with Carla and Ruby's grandmother going into the other room to see that the TARDIS has partly embedded into their ceiling. Thank God for Unit's alien repair claims line, eh? Next, the trailer switches back to Ruby's first time entering the TARDIS, with the Doctor saying, "I'm the Doctor." Not only is this a great way to cement Ncuti's place as the 15th Doctor, but it gives us our first clue into what the first episode of the series is going to be, namely the episode with the green hell beast on the spaceship, which has been given the name Space Babies in the media. And the reason I say this is because you can actually see in later clips from the same episode that Ncuti and Millie are both wearing the same outfits that they're wearing in that opening sequence where Ruby enters the TARDIS in the later episode. The trailer then gives us a montage of the Doctor shifting between different outfits. Him in his blue 60s suit, and then in some brown monk robe, and then in his Regency era attire. The last of these stills is significant as we see the Doctor in his Regency era suit in the same spaceship/lair that we spotted in our last trailer breakdown, except in this time he's looking off screen with a hologram of what appears to be not his 14th incarnation, but his 10th incarnation. Most people on social media, myself included, think that this is actually the 10th incarnation, as Tennant's face looks a bit younger in the hologram than he did in his 14th incarnation. Plus, they did plenty of 3D shots during the 60th anniversary of David Tennant as the 14th Doctor, so if they were going to refer to 14 here instead of 10, they probably would have used that updated footage, but it's quite clear to the eagle-eyed that they haven't. This could be a similar moment to In the 11th Hour, where the scanner cycles through all of the Doctor's incarnations before reaching the current Doctor, and Ncuti will get another "I'm the Doctor" moment, or it could indicate that whoever the villain of this story is, they may have met the 10th Doctor. Then, the audience gets a reminder of when the TARDIS materialised in front of Mrs. Flood, who, upon close inspection in this footage, appears to not only be shocked by the materialisation, but she recognises the box. This was likely to remind us viewers of the mystery surrounding her. After seeing the TARDIS in the new vortex, we then see the Doctor and Ruby landing in an era that is not often visited by Doctor Who, the Mesozoic era. And in a brilliant throwback to the question posed by Bill Potts in Under the Ice, Ruby asks what happens if she steps on a butterfly, proceeds to do so, and when the camera turns back to her, we see that Ruby is now a butterfly person. I'd like to take a moment to commend the CGI on these butterflies as well for being historically accurate, since recent studies show that the Mesozoic butterflies were morphologically identical to today's butterflies to the point where we probably wouldn't even notice the difference. And that's not even mentioning Ruby's butterfly human persona, since she looked absolutely incredible. It was a strange blend of the slightly weird and creepy to the fantastical, which I absolutely loved. Next, we see the TARDIS flying towards a space station orbiting a ringed planet, with the voiceover of the Doctor saying, "With all my adventures, I've never seen anything like this before." Could this be a clip from Space Babies, where the Doctor and Ruby meet the Green Hell Beast? Potentially. Next, we see the Doctor and Ruby in a modern day room in their modern day attire, looking into some kind of old-fashioned screen with ash pouring into the room. This to me is giving off major war/apocalyptic vibes, so perhaps this is from an episode set on Earth, either in the future or potentially in an alternate timeline where a massive fight has broken out, as there is a green fire exit sign in the background. We then see another set of clips from the Regency era episode. The first, where we see the Duchess, played by Indira Varma, morphing into some kind of grey-faced alien. Then we see the Doctor and Ruby waltzing at the ball. The clip then changes to the episode with the Beatles, the title of which has been confirmed to be The Devil's Chord, where we see an old lady screaming as Jinx Monsoon's villain attacks her with literal music chords lifted from the sheet music, cementing everybody's theories about Jinx Monsoon's villain having a musical-based powers. The trailer changes again to Ruby on an alien planet, seemingly in the middle of a war zone, firing a laser gun. We also see a glowing landmine from the first trailer with someone in the background stepping on it. The trailer switches back to the Beatles episode with somebody being trapped inside a drum's barrel or being turned into the drum itself, no doubt another power of Jinx Monsoon's villain. Then the trailer switches and we hear Kate Stewart's voiceover saying things seem to be turning more to the supernatural, clearly highlighting RTD's claims that the show will be turning more fantastical as well as science fiction in the new era of Doctor Who. Next, we see a young blonde woman with a pink headband and a purple suit who bears slight resemblance to Mrs. Flood. Though, given Ncuti Gatwa's comments about Mrs. Flood on Radio Times, I may be mistaken, but we'll discuss that in a moment. The trailer then switches to a streetlight at night with an ominous green glow flickering from the lamp. The scene then changes again to a wine glass shattering all over a newspaper with the headline reading, "Khrushchev threatens Finland." This is a specific reference to the 1961 note crisis. Given how the wine glass appears to shatter without being touched, I think that it was shattered by sound, which implies that it's part of the Beatles episode. And then the newspaper is a deliberate clue to give us a better idea of when the episode is set. 1961, to be exact. Next we see a figure in a brown cloak pointing in front of themselves, ominously. Their faces are blurred out, but the robes appear to be similar to the robes that are being worn by the Doctor earlier in the trailer, so they belong to the same episode, though it doesn't tell us much about what the episode may be about. The clip then changes to the Doctor and Ruby in Space Babies episode meeting the green monster on the spaceship and then screaming. We then see modern day streets filling with greyish dust and smoke. Maybe it's the same episode where we earlier saw the Doctor and Ruby looking into the old-fashioned screen, or it could be part of the episode set on modern-day Earth when the Doctor returns to unit. The trailer then changes where we see the Doctor, Ruby, Rose Noble, Kate Stewart, and, for the eagle-eyed in the audience, actor Lenny Rush, who was confirmed in Doctor Who magazine to be joining the 15th Doctor in this season of Doctor Who. They all appear to be entering a high security room at unit. Again, we hear the Doctor's voiceover from the last trailer saying powers beyond this universe, and then during this voiceover, the trailer then switches to where we see two planets in a dimly lit orbit giving off some kind of space dust. Given how Ruby was seen on a Warzone planet that seemed to be perpetually dim and covered in ash, it is possible that maybe this episode is set on two planets that are locked in intergalactic conflict. This clip shows these two planets clearly here, and they look a lot further away from the sun than they would be if they were part of the Earth's solar system, and they don't look very brightly lit. So this is one theory I have for that episode. The trailer then switches and we see the clock from the church on Ruby Road striking midnight. So this makes me wonder, in the trailer, do we see a flashback of the Doctor's time in 2004 when he rescued baby Ruby from the goblins? Did he learn more about that night than he let on? Is he keeping that secret from Ruby? We don't know, but I believe it was included in the trailer for a specific reason. Next, we see a tuning fork in water. Again, this could potentially be related to the Beatles episode. And another clip definitely confirmed to be from this episode is the TARDIS console blowing up. And the reason I say it's from the same episode is because you can clearly see the Doctor and Ruby in their 60s attire. So this implies that at some point during this episode, something is going to be affecting the TARDIS and causes it minor damage. And it could also be related to the next scene we see, which is London in ruins. Clearly in the future from the 1960s, as the Doctor and Ruby watch on solemnly, still in their 60s attire. The Doctor's voiceover comes on at this point, saying the whole world could slide into the pit, and this is what we're trying to stop. This whole montage here reminds me a lot of a scene from the 1975 Pyramids of Mars episode, where Sarah Jane asks the Fourth Doctor if they can just leave 1911 and go back to 1980 before they've defeated Sutekh, who is about to wake up in 1911. The Doctor agrees, but only to make a point and show her an alternate future where Earth is desolate as Sutekh hasn't been stopped yet. Could it be that the Doctor has a similar moment with Ruby during his battle with Jinx Monsoon's villain, where he shows Ruby alternative time just to point out to her, unless we interfere here, then Jinx Monsoon is going to destroy the world. Next, we see a piece of alien tech that is actually sunk into a pit in the middle of a wasteland, possibly from the same episode where we see Ruby firing a laser gun, drawing in some sort of net of blue energy back into itself like some kind of implosion. The clip changes to the Doctor and Carla having a heart-to-heart where he promises Ruby's mother that he will keep her safe. Immediately afterwards, however, if you look at the trailer in 0.5 times speed, we see Ruby ensnared in Jinx Monsoon's sheet music magic, looking entranced and probably trapped. So, good job at keeping her safe, Doctor. She's really safe in that clip, clearly. Back in the 1960s, the Doctor is then seen using the sonic screwdriver to illuminate some kind of cellar, with Ruby down there with him. They're either investigating or hiding, however it's unclear from the clip that we see. The trailer then, instead of focusing purely on the episodes, then shifts its focus specifically to Ruby, and we see a montage of Ruby changing the show with her. Once on the cliff face with that mysterious figure from the last trailer in the background behind her, then to her sitting in some kind of bar, then to her sitting on the sofa with glasses and a champagne glass, looking a tiny bit older, to Ruby in her Regency era outfit in the library, swatting away at something off screen with a book. This raises questions for me such as, do we see a future version of Ruby in the episode, either in the series finale, or maybe it's just part of the stories? We don't know, but it does look interesting to see how Ruby is going to change throughout the upcoming series. The focus then shifts to Abbey Grove Studio, where we see a stool being thrown through the glass window separating the control room from the recording room, and then the Doctor falling through the ceiling of the Goblin ship. During this montage, we hear Ruby say, "It's taken me all this time to figure out what I'm meant to do. I'm going to save the world." This to me indicates that Ruby will be playing a big role in taking down the series' big bad, or multiple villains throughout the season, and in doing so she actually gains some clarity into what she wants to do with her life, as many companions before her have done. When we see the TARDIS flying down to Earth, we then see the Doctor and Mel riding a motorbike down the streets as people through London are running away. This is a different clip to the trailer for the Christmas special because we actually see in this shot that people are running in the opposite direction to where the Doctor and Mel are going. So this indicates to me that what I previously thought was a high-speed chase scene may actually be them rushing to the scene of the crisis that's unfolding as pedestrians run in the opposite direction. We then see the TARDIS being scanned in Unit HQ, with the trailer changing to the Doctor saying anything is possible, which is finished by captions on screen saying when you change time. This indicates to me that the Doctor may be seen meddling with the timeline somewhat. I mean, without the Time Lords to stop him, who's going to stand up to him if he says, nope, we need to change history a tiny bit here. The clips then change back to Abbey Grove Studios with a dance sequence of ladies with umbrellas dancing as it appears to be raining indoors, and then we see the same dance troupe post-dance scene all listening to something in Abbey Grove's recording studio with the Doctor and Ruby, probably the Beatles, indicating that this episode will be one of the musical episodes teased by Russell T Davies, which is fitting given the historical setting for the episode. We then see the Doctor in his unit outfit, looking intense as he says, everything is possible. We then see the TARDIS on the same cliff face as from the start of the trailer, covered in foliage and looking abandoned, which indicates that in one of the episodes that the TARDIS may get stranded somewhere without the Doctor for a very long time. We then see Ruby standing in some massive indoor space where a bunch of bright lights come on, illuminating what appears to be a spaceship or the safe room from inside Unit. And finally, at the end of the trailer, we get a few shots of various returning characters. Mel on her moped, Kate Stewart at Unit, and the Doctor himself winking at the camera. So that's a run through of all of the visual clues that we see in the trailer. The trailer does tell us a little bit more about what to expect from the show. There's going to be at least one episode set in the modern day where Rose Noble, Mel Bush and Kate Stewart are set to return, and it appears Lenny Rush is going to make his Doctor Who debut in that same episode. The main villain in the Regency period episode appears to be aliens posing as humans, with Indira Varma's Duchess being one of them. Jinx Monsoon's villain will have music-based powers and will appear in a musical episode with the Beatles. The Doctor and Ruby will be visiting the dinosaur age, and the Doctor may be engaging with some tampering of the timelines and averting apocalyptic futures in the upcoming season. Overall, the trailer exceeds in getting us more enthused for the upcoming season, which is, at the time of recording this, just over a month away now. So that's a run through of all of the visual clues that we see in the trailer. The trailer does tell us a little bit more about what to expect from the show. There's going to be at least one episode set in the modern day where Rose Noble, Mel Bush and Kate Stewart are set to return, and it appears Lenny Rush is going to make his Doctor Who debut in that same episode. The main villain in the Regency period episode appears to be aliens posing as humans, with Indira Varma's Duchess being one of them. Jinx Monsoon's villain will have music-based powers and will appear in a musical episode with the Beatles. The Doctor and Ruby will be visiting the dinosaur age, and the Doctor may be engaging with some tampering of the timelines and averting apocalyptic futures in the upcoming season. Overall, the trailer exceeds in getting us more enthused for the upcoming season, which is, at the time of recording this, just over a month away now. Another thing worth discussing in this episode is Ncuti Gatwa has released his own theory on Mrs. Flood's identity, given in a RadioTimes article this month, in which he states she must be a companion, adding that he genuinely didn't know who Mrs. Flood was. Now, this could be a red herring on Russell T Davies' part, having Ncuti give a misleading or vague response to throw people off the scent of Mrs. Flood's identity, as more clips and trailers come out in the lead up to the debut of the show. I personally still think that the young blonde woman that we see in the 60s episode, who has again appeared in this trailer, is a young version of Mrs. Flood, set to appear in The Devil's Cord. However, taking Ncuti's word at its face value, is it possible that he genuinely doesn't know who Mrs. Flood is? After all, he has already filmed The Devil's Cord at this point, so if a young Mrs. Flood appeared in that, he probably should know who she is, unless as part of the episode she never revealed who she was, and it will be revealed in the next season. However, this would potentially mean that we may not find out who Mrs. Flood is in the upcoming season at all, and Anita Dobson may become a recurring cast member until we eventually do find out who she is. I still prefer my theory, of course, but then at the same time I am biased and I am interested in what the other possibilities into Mrs. Flood's identity could be. All very exciting things for us in store on this season of Doctor Who. Lots of returning characters and even more new characters and villains to meet. I, for one, am very much looking forward to May 11th, and I cannot wait to see what this season may bring to Doctor Who. What did you guys think of the trailer? Did you spot anything we may have missed? Or maybe you heard something in forums that we didn't pick up ourselves? Let us know in the comments section of your favourite podcast app, and check out our Instagram and TikTok pages for sound bites of previous episodes, and subscribe for notifications about new episodes when they're released. We also now have our own Linktree page, organising all of our platforms and all of our social media pages in one place, the link for which can be found in our social media bios. Thank you everyone very much for listening, and as always, see you next time on Tardissian Files.